I wouldn't mind that. Mm-hmm. How is everybody doing? I see some familiar faces and some people that I haven't spoken to in a long time. Zeno, I actually haven't heard your voice in ages, man. It's mostly my fault. I haven't been in Surgence VC in a while, unfortunately. It's one of the negative advantages of being a community manager in a different community. You just have to be in their VC constantly. It's one of my main selling points.
Hey, Nat.
It's hello.
Hey guys.
Howdy,
How you doing?
dudes. I'm good. I can't wait to get this show on the road. And now we've waited a minute or two, so maybe we can just get started right away. Zeno, I hope you're taking care of your throat. Lots of tea, lots of ginger, lots of lemon, bro. That's all you gotta do. Yeah. We've all been there, man. All right. Let us get started with this one. So, first of all, hello and welcome. For those of you that don't know me yet, because there are a couple of newer faces in here, I'm Nox. I've been in the space for, crypto since 2018, NFTs since late 2021, and yeah, I've just been sort of familiarizing myself with everything. I did the same sort of round trip that most people did. I started in stocks, migrated over to crypto, and then inevitably, found out about NFTs. That's just kind of the full circle that I think a lot of people go through. And yeah, a part of that journey, especially in the NFT space, means you go through all of these phases, right? You had the euphoria phase, then you had the degen free mint phase, you had the meme coin phase, and in between all of those, you had the airdrop phase. And the airdrop phase started off when Blur was suddenly airdropping tons of ETH to a bunch of people, and they started posting about it on social media. People like, our very own Mike's NFT suddenly finding himself with 14 ETH, extra ETH in his wallet, just for trading around on Blur a little bit, That's kind of insane. And that really sort of started to open the door for a lot of people for airdrops. But yeah, ever since then, the volume has been slowly increasing, but is still very, I feel, in my opinion at least, underexposed. And that means that there's still a lot of potential and a lot of potential money to be made by farming these, but only if you do it correctly. So, first of all, I'm going to be sort of doing a little refresher course for those that might already know. For those that don't know, I'll just be explaining what they are. We're going to go through a couple of airdrops that we've seen in the past, and then we're going to talk about ones that you can do right now, people you can follow, and then we'll do a little Q&A round at the end in case anybody is curious and has any additional questions. I can already tell you guys right now with the Q&A, if you guys say, oh, what about this chain? I listen, the biggest airdrop expert in the world is not going to know about every airdrop that exists. There are tons of them all over the place. I'm going to name and go through three of, in my opinion, some of the biggest ones are. And then from there, there's a couple of other smaller ones too, but yeah, more on that a little bit later. So first of all, what are airdrops? I mean, if you're in this course, I really hope that you kind of know what airdrops are. But in case you don't, if there is a new protocol, a new coin, a new layer 1, whatever it is, chances are they're going to be establishing, their own coin. They're going to be releasing it. And they're not just going to do it, straight up like that. They're not just going to say, here's the coin, it's on this exchange, buy it. No, this is a chance for them to build a loyal following. This is a chance for them to, curate a community the same way you would an NFT collection. So they're free tokens that are distributed to the wallets of an ecosystem. So anybody that has seen the recent, well, not recent now, but Sui, for example, they were doing a little something. And you saw so many people with the Sui username, next to their Twitter name. And in Discord as well. I mean, I'm sure there's still quite a few people that have the Sui thing. But yeah, it's definitely a thing to keep in mind. And it's a thing that's going to continue to be happening down the line just because of how useful it is. not only for the people that are involved, but also for the projects themselves. And I'll show you why it actually benefits the project to airdrop as well. So, why do projects airdrop? Number one, like I just said, marketing purposes. You will definitely get a lot more people coming in using your protocol. And then chances are, if you're doing this and you're marketing it properly, that attracts the main thing you want as a crypto, or layer one individual, and that is builders. You're trying to essentially, if you have a project like one of these more popular ones, zkSync, LayerZero, Venom, you want to attract people, the masses, because the more people you attract, of course, the more builders you attract, and you want people building on your platform instead of ETH or any of these other popular ones. So that's one of the main reasons for that. That just goes hand in hand with the second point that I just mentioned, attracting users. It incentivizes people to engage, of course. It gives tokens to your target audience. I mean, the people that have been there for a while, that have been, going for it and that have been promoting the community. It's a nice little way to reward them. People are always left with fond memories. Of course, there's a good chance that everybody that gets airdropped sells all their tokens right away. But it's still, worth doing, because you do end up always being left with this core community of people that have been using the thing or testing on the testnet or whatever for a very long time. So that's always like one of the more interesting things. And then testing, I mean, testing is like the whole point of testnet phase in the first place of a layer one or any sort of blockchain. They have their testnet, which is basically like a closed beta. If you're thinking like video game terms, it's before actually being released. They will like release this to like a small amount of people. People can mess around with it. It's not going to be fully polished. It's not going to be fully finished, but you can mess around with it. And the more transactions you do on that, the more data the team then gets. And the more data they have, the better they can then fine tune the final product. That's actually like one of the main reasons that they're doing this. And then the extra added bonus, for Americans out there. Americans hate airdrop systems just because if you call something an airdrop and people get airdropped and whatever, there's a chance that the token gets labeled a security. Everybody hates the word security now. And the thing is, like, by airdropping tokens to people, by giving them to people, they actually then get like this whatever partial ownership in your coin, but you didn't actually invest any of your own money. And that sort of is their way of circumnavigating, of looping through that sort of definition of a security. So yeah, there's a lot of very good reasons to do these airdrops. These are, just the most important ones. There's a bunch of little added bonuses too for the community and for the project. But these are the most important ones. So why go for airdrops? Well, let's take a look at how much money there has been behind airdrops in the past. You can see all of these latest ones that have been happening. All of these happened in the last 2 years, I think. The last 1 or 2 years have all been distributing gargantuan amounts of money. So especially the ones that may not seem as big, like the ENS one, which is 200 million. I mean, I know no small amount of money, but this ENS one happened in 2021. There were very few people that were actually using this back at this point, and that resulted in most people that were in here actually earning a good $10,000 plus from these airdrops. And then you had all of these other ones. You had Uniswap, DYDX, Optimism. Some of the more late ones that you might remember is the Blur one that kind of started the whole wave in the first place. And then you also had the Arbitrum drop, which was also a really, really big one. You had lots of very wealthy people making 6 figures from that. And yeah, they keep going. They're always happening. They always will keep happening. The key with airdrops now, if you're strategizing, is, I'm going to go in a bit more on this later, but it's how much time do you have every day to actually put into this? Because consistency is really important. And which chains do you think are important? So you have to kind of pick, the biggest ones or the ones that you think have the best potential. and go all in on those. So continuing, this was a spontaneous quote of mine from the last one. Thus, everyone and their mother is looking for an airdrop opportunity. This was much more relevant like 3 or 4 months ago when it was a much bigger thing. Nowadays, it was a hyped thing, and now it's sort of faded away again. Like, people aren't really talking about it anymore, but it's still there, Anyway, continuing. What determines the value of an airdrop? Of course, there's a lot of different factors, a lot of external factors. But the on-chain activity, of course, like the amount of transactions, the amount of volume that they have, et cetera, goes into play. The amount of funding raised by the company is probably the most important one, just because, that's the amount that they can then afford to give out to people. That's a great one. Use cases and uniqueness, comparison to competitors, revenue streams and tokenomics. All of these are, just important assets. The bio, you're hot miking, my friend. Or did you actually have something to ask?
Yeah, you have to.
The bio, did you have a question or something, or?
I don't think he
okay.
does.
He's muted. Okay, he's muted. We're good. We're good. All right, let's just move. Let's just move all right along. It all starts with rumors and a hope. So this is a very important thing that should never be sort of ignored when you're talking about airdrops, and that is that companies will very rarely announce officially that they're doing an airdrop. This is for many reasons, of course. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they would not do so. Number one, to avoid grinders, obviously. If as soon as you officially say, hey guys, we're doing an airdrop, yeah, every single airdrop farmer on the planet is going to start going for yours, because then it's a sure thing. It's possible that they actually don't do the airdrop. That's arguably the most important one. No worries at all, Dubai. All good. Through whatever reason, if they have to hit a kill switch, if the company gets sabotaged, if there's a big technical glitch or something, then they always have that excuse to say, listen, I know a lot of you guys have been farming this thing, but we never officially announced it. It's a way to sort of scapegoat it. And yeah, I have the Arbitrum example here that was like just a little bit before the airdrop itself, where he literally wrote, no, we're not planning an Arbitrum token. So it does happen. It's there all the time. I see people listing in some interesting airdrop ones. Yeah, those are some good ones. I mean, the list is, like I said, absolutely huge. I'm going to be going through like some of the bigger ones right now. But yeah, we can maybe delve into some of the smaller ones a little bit later on. Anyway, airdrop is true WAGMI. This is because it's much more risk-free than any of these other ones, right? With any other, like, NFTs or coins or whatever you're buying in. With this one, the investment in itself is, it doesn't have to be very big. That's the thing. So you have some of these Mainnets that are going to do airdrops, and in that case, yeah, you do have to bridge some forums, some funds back and forth between protocols and whatnot. But there's also a lot of testnet ones where, the token isn't actually live yet, and you're just messing around with their testnet token. So I'm going to be doing a little guide about Venom, for example, and Venom are doing their little testnet token right now. So you can, start farming on the Venom testnet, for example, for free, for no money. And yeah, that's always a little, extra advantage of some of those. So generally speaking, what you'll see in most of these like tutorial people's pages is that they'll recommend it if your portfolio is less than 10K. Because chances are, after a few months, if you do this stuff for like 1 or 2 hours a day or something, that is a substantial amount. And that really piles up after a while. So it just ends up being that 10K ends up being more likely Like, if you have 5K, you're more likely to get to 10K through the airdrop farming than you are through trading an NFT or something. It's just less risky. Exactly. And the cost is less. Not to mention, like, all of these test nets that are coming out anyway nowadays are trying to solve the major Ethereum problem, which is, like he says here, scalability, right? And gas fees. And so most of them tend to be quite cheap, you know, for transaction costs, whether it's mainnet. And then if it's testnet, it's free anyway. So all the more, you know, reason to go for those. If OpenSea is doing an airdrop, dude, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. It would be interesting to have it now, actually, for them if they're, like, with their volume being at an all-time low and users not actually being on. That would be a really interesting way to reward the people that are here now. I agree, though. I don't think they will. But yeah, I mean, there's rumors of basically everything. You know, MetaMask as well as was a. I remember MetaMask airdrop completely took over Twitter for a while until people called it out as a false alarm. But it could still happen. Who knows? Is it confirmed? Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, cool. But then I guess everyone's just waiting for the confirmation of when it'll happen. Anyway, airdrop eligibility. There's a lot of different things that you can do to make yourself eligible for an airdrop. It of course depends on the project. It depends on what they're trying to achieve. It you know, it'll just be project to project. And the issue with a lot of these is a lot of the time they're not going to say in advance what you know, those requirements are. And that's why airdrop farmers are going to be trying all these different types of transactions, and they'll be doing, you know, a mixture of trying a lot of different protocols and different smart contracts, as well as moving large amounts of funds around, because it's usually a mixture of those two things. So I mentioned already bridging funds, being consistent with it. Like I said, like, I have it sort of in my daily routine that, like, an hour a day or so I attribute to, you know, just a little bit of airdrop, you know, token transactions, et cetera, et cetera. So increase the number of transactions. Total volume comes into play, like I said. Liquidity deposited. We'll talk about liquidity pools a little bit later as well. Interaction with smart contracts. Some of them also have some social media like aspects, and Zealy and Crew 3. Sui tried to do that. I don't know if any of these like other bigger ones currently are, but yeah, that's also kind of a thing. And then you have some of the more obvious ones, of course, minting NFTs, deploying contracts, running a node, or running a project. You know, there's all of these basic things. Essentially, you know, at the end of the day, it's super simple. The companies themselves, or the coin teams, are trying to gather information. And they do that by saying, hey, guys, do all of these different things. The more you do, the more we will reward you. And that basically gives them all of the data that they need to, you know, be able to roll out their more finished product. It's, you know, at its most simple, that's basically what it would be. So, I covered that all quite fast. I'll keep an eye on the chat to see if there are any other questions. But now I'm going to be going over 3 of like some of the more basic airdrops and showing you like exactly what you could do to actually go for it. In fact, just to give you guys a little example of what it is that like some of the requirements actually are, with the Arbitrum one, they released the criteria here. This was quite interesting. They had 6 criteria in total, and you had to meet at least 3 to qualify for the airdrop. So one of these is to bridge. One of them is to conduct transactions at least 2 months before they did a snapshot. Then conduct at least 4 transactions or interact with at least 4 smart contracts. Conduct transactions with at least $10,000 in aggregate value. Deposit at least $10,000 on Arbitrum 1. Or conduct at least 3 transactions on Arbitrum Nova. And of course, the amount that you received depended on a lot of different factors, right? Usually it was very volume based. You noticed people that were getting, you know, 5 or 6 digit figures from Arbitrum were moving some very large amounts of money around. And of course, the biggest ones, the biggest winners were actually the institutions themselves, some of the companies. Devil, did you have a question? Okay. I will interpret the silence as a no. But I just wanted to show you guys. What exactly that's all about. So, I'll be going through 3 of the bigger airdrop, things that you could go for right now. Which is the first one is zkSync, which is the one that basically everybody is doing. It's kind of the mainstream token to airdrop to go for an airdrop for. And then we'll go through LayerZero, which is like sort of a omni-chain interoperability gig. And then we'll go through Venom, which is just an entirely new game on its own. So zkSync, layer 2 scaling solution on Ethereum, speeds up transactions, lowers gas fees, and have raised 400 million. So I'm just going to go through this tutorial, I'm just going to go on my screen and just sort of show basically what you do for zkSync, but I'm sure this presentation will be made available. So here's going to be the sort of step-by-step list of things that you could do. Keep in mind, this is not a 100% guys, you will get tons of money if you follow this step-by-step sort of tutorial. This is here is a list of things that I'm currently doing, but I highly suggest that you look at other tutorials yourselves and that you actually look around and find other types of transactions that you can do. Because there's no perfect formula. Like I said, nobody actually knows exactly what the requirements are at any given point. But at the very least, what you can do to get yourself a decent little chunk is to, bridge, is to do transactions, is to swap, and to mess around with, NFTs and smart contracts and stuff. So, I will hop over now to... Let's just hop onto Chrome and get started with zkSync. So, if you're new to zkSync, you're going to want to add it to your MetaMask wallet. The easiest way to do this, like I said, guys, the presentation will be made available for everybody, so you can just follow the links in the PowerPoint. You don't have to, follow or write down any of the links that I'm on right now. But yeah, this one will take you straight to the zkSync era mainnet. You just have to add it to MetaMask, and it'll basically just ask you a quick, are you sure you want to do this? And you can add it. And then it will show up on the top left. If you've never explored different networks before, then it'll turn up here. And you have, here I have the zkSync alpha testnet, and here is the mainnet. See, so here you can see I've got about $100 on this particular network. So once you've added this to your MetaMask, you're going to want to bridge funds. So bridging essentially just means moving funds from one network to another one. And one of the best ones that you can use for that is, of course, there's a lot of different bridges out there. But if you want your best chances possible, then your best shot is to just do it through zkSync's own bridge. And so basically all you would do here is you can click on the deposit, and I can say ETH. I want to put in 0.1, for example. And then your mainnet account is, it's the same wallet address. And then it'll ask you to change your network if you're still on the other one. So I'll hop back over to Ethereum. And then if I were to click continue, then here you pay a little bit of, a little bit of money, and then you get the money onto the mainnet account. Now, there is one little issue here. Gas. Gas prices are very expensive if you're looking at this. So you've got this $20, or sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little bit less. But either way, it's quite a bit of money if you're doing this on a regular basis. And that's why, just a little loop, if you're lucky enough to be a Binance user, you can actually do it through Arbitrum, through the Arbitrum network, and then you'll end up paying gas fees of $1 or $2 or something. then that's just a cheap little workaround for that particular swap. So once you've done that, this bridge, this is already a step. Like by adding the wallet and by bridging a couple of some funds over, you've already sort of started on the journey towards qualifying for an airdrop. What do you do next? You have some money. Now you can head over to some of these different protocols and start messing around with them. So here you've got SyncSwap. This, you can see here, I'm on Ethereum. If I hop over to zkSync era, MetaMask is going to ask if I want to switch over. Yes. Here we go. And now I can go over here and you can swap any tokens around. There are a lot of like shit coins and things like that. Like that doesn't really matter as much what you switch around. You can just sort of swap around full circle. Generally, it is more volume based than anything else. So, you'll end up probably getting more airdropped if you're trading around 1 ETH rather than like 0.05 like I am here. Yeah, it's just all depending on how much you're willing to play around with, how much how do you say, disposable income you have and are willing to put in. And then if you're on the Era mainnet, then you can also do this thing here, where you can add to liquidity pools. This is always a very big player when it comes to airdrops. Add a bunch of money to their liquidity. And this is a very easy thing to do, right? You can just hop in here, USDC ETH, you could put it in and it'll tell you what the APR is. And usually, you can put in 50-50, for example, and once you enter it into the pool, you can just leave it there for a while. And that will also be like one of these extra steps that you can take. Super useful, super important. Now, we have SyncSwap, and then we also have like this other exchange here, Mute Switch, where you can swap. It's essentially another swapping protocol. But like I said, the point is that you mess around with as many of these different ones as possible. Right? So on any given day, I'll go to SyncSwap. I'll do like 3 or 4 swaps. I'll hop over here. I'll do 3 or 4 swaps. And then I'm good to go. And they also have their own pool. They have their own coin as well, which, again, invest as much of this and mess around with it as you want. A lot of these coins, like Mute, for example, it's not a super well-known project. So it's a little bit more risky if you want to leave something in there. But yeah, it all depends on, again, your risk openness, your risk toleration. And then here's just a little extra bonus thing. There is also a naming service. So similar to ENS, similar to like the .eth names, you also have .zk. You can already buy some of these. And interestingly enough, this one is actually super cool because if you look at the bottom left here, it says powered by LayerZero. This is going to be like the next tutorial that I have. So by doing this, you're essentially killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're interacting with zk and you're interacting with the LayerZero network at the same time. So this is a super useful thing to do. You can just go here, launch app. You can see if there's any of these names available. I could do noxy.zk. It is available, and then you can, try and buy it for a certain period. So this kind of stuff, I mean, you guys notice, like the UI and everything, in case you guys are ever scared or nervous of trying a different chain or a different network, a lot of their UIs, how a lot of these dApps or how a lot of these tools look like, is pretty much the same as any ETH one. They make it as similar as possible just to make it as easy for people to get onto it as possible. That's always the issue with people that are like that have been on ETH for 2 or 3 years or whatever. They're scared of that change because it adds an extra step of complication. But if you're willing to take that step, that's when the rewards start to come in. So that's just one of the other things. To be completely honest, there's so many things that you can do in zkSync. Like it's grown and matured so much as a network now that there are tons and tons of builders that have their own. They have their own communities. They have their own AMAs. They have their own spaces. It has its own game. I know Crypto Maze is like a pretty big one on zkSync. I think it's their first game as well. That's something that you could always like take a look at. Or they have like NFTs, of course, that you can buy and sell. There's all kinds of different stuff. So yeah, these are some of the most basic ones. If you do these and you do these regularly, chances are you'll get airdropped something. You never know just how much people will get, just because you don't. It's hard to see. You never know how much they're actually giving out is the most important thing. But with ZK, with the amount of people going after it, I'm sure people are going to be making some pretty crazy money off of it. So that is as far as we go for zkSync. Now we're going to hop over to LayerZero. So the interesting thing about LayerZero is that it sort of operates off of this one central protocol that's called Stargate. It's by far the most popular protocol on the network, and it's the first app that was built by LayerZero in the first place. So definitely an important starting point. So when you're on CoinGecko, for example, and you look at Stargate Finance, you see their token, blah, blah, blah. There's the chart. Oop, kind of a dip there. Anyway, when you go over to the contract, you see there's the Binance Smart Chain, there's Avalanche, Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, Phantom. Lots of chains. That's because that's because LayerZero is all about interoperability, right? They want to be that bridge between chains, like so many other, coins are trying to do. But this is something that you can, then sort of go for. This is a good example and a good starting point of what they have. So if you want to actually buy some of their token, this is like the first recommended thing that you do is buy the Stargate token. And you buy some of it by, for example, you can click on the Arbitrum contract. You go to Uniswap. And you can put the contract in here. That'll get you the Stargate token on the Arbitrum network, for example. And here you can just, switch over to the Arbitrum network and make your purchases, basically. And there, that will get you some of these Stargate tokens. Now, buying some Stargate tokens is already a good step in the right direction. What can you do with these Stargate tokens? You can stake them. So Stargate is a really cool one. And of course, they have this token governance system. So if you have some of these tokens and you stake them, then it entitles you to, a bit of voting power within their protocols, within their, with how they make decisions and whatnot. And so if you have some Stargate tokens available, you will be able to lock it. You'll get this vested thing, and this will get you your Stargate governance voting power. This, it's already been sort of mentioned that this is like one of the most important things you can do, just because it shows that you're active, just because it shows that you have a lot of things to do. That you're active in the space, that you're making decisions, you have interests of the company in mind, basically. And so that is one of the most important things that you can get in here for the airdrop. By the way, guys, LayerZero airdrop is one of the few airdrops that have been like officially confirmed. So if you ever really, really want something that's just like, risk-free entirely, then you could go for LayerZero because there is a guaranteed airdrop there. So next thing you can do, same thing as zkSync, and you will notice that this is kind of a running trend with a lot of these testnet tokens or a lot of these potential airdrops, is that 80% of the time you're going to be bridging, you're going to be swapping, you're going to be adding to liquidity pools. Like that's basically like the high majority of everything that they want from you. So in this case, you've got the Aptos bridge that you can mess around with. This is powered by LayerZero. Or you've got the Bitcoin bridge as well that you can work with. That is also, as you can see down here, powered by LayerZero. Like all of these things are things that you can do regular transactions on and end up getting rewarded for it a bit later. Yeah. I ended up going through the LayerZero one quite quickly, but if anyone has any questions, like I said, just mention it in the chat. You will find a lot of experts around. I've noticed by going for airdrops that, like, you'll get a very interesting mixture of, number one, like crypto and blockchain experts that literally, have their tier list of favorite things and why the tokenomics are so good and what they're trying to build, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have like the casual farmers that are just going through their to-do list and don't care as much. I would consider myself a bit of a mixture of both. Like, I am seriously interested in what like some of these coins and projects are doing. But I mean, of course, the main driving factor for most people is the potential of an airdrop. Chime, you said you wanted to say something. If you want.
Yeah. Sorry. I
All
was I
good.
was I was spamming LayerZero. So it's okay. So I wanted to say quickly, like, I wasn't a question, but I wanted to talk about like the difference between or the importance we should place for, especially for layer 2 drops.
Mm-hmm.
We should not just like put so much energy on testnets and rather wait for, I mean, if we're doing testnets at all, like just to maybe fulfill all righteousness, or maybe like to actually test the product itself. But if we actually want to do serious work and farming and whatever, that always wait for minutes. I mean, you think people would have learned by now, but then linear just gave everybody like a rude awakening too. I mean, people who I know, I know
That's
how
true.
crazy, I know how crazy linear's tasks were. I mean, I tried to do it for like 2 weeks and I gave up. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore. And people
That's
like
the
actually,
biggest
yeah.
that's the biggest issue, man, and people don't realize. I mean, nothing is ever completely certain, right? Like, of course, there are less rugs in airdrops than there are in NFTs, but they still do exist. You will still sometimes, if you make the wrong decisions, then end up being screwed over, or if the team makes the wrong decisions. So yeah, Linea was kind of crazy. Sui was ridiculous,
Yeah,
like one of the
very
most
ridiculous.
mismanaged things I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, definitely be careful. The next one that I'm going to be going over is a bit of an exception to the rule that you mentioned, but I'm still going to mention it just because of I think it's still very much in the shadows and should be out a little bit more, and that's Venom. Venom is a big deal for several reasons. Number one, well, I can name some of the main reasons. So first of all, they are the first officially licensed and regulated blockchain operating within the Abu Dhabi global markets. So we're talking about Saudi money. We're talking about lots and lots of backing. With an initial venture fund of $1 billion. I mean, that that just goes to show, just how much seriousness is in it. This is not just something that has, a lot of potential. It's also something that has a lot of technical potential as well through their dynamic sharding technology. I don't want to go too much into the technical stuff, but they essentially want to be able to process tons and tons more transactions in a smaller amount of time, while also decreasing the transaction fees. So as you can see on the website, average transaction fee is 2% of a cent. Basically, it's a ridiculously small number. And to just put a little cherry on top of that cake, the head of the head chairman basically is Peter Canez, who was the CIO of BlackRock. And anybody that has anything to do with finance should know what BlackRock is. And he was one of the key people in transforming BlackRock into the multi-trillion-dollar asset manager, dark horse in the business world that it is today. One of the most powerful entities that are actually out there. So this is one of those like incredibly powerful people that likes to work from the shadows. And he's working on this thing. And they have incredibly ambitious goals. I'm sorry, I don't want to go in too hard on Venom, but I'm just going to mention this real quick. Their main goals as clients is to bring on CBDCs and governments. So, just to show like the level of officialness that this is going to be. It is highly centralized and it is highly regulated. So any decentralization maxis are probably not going to like Venom very much. But that level of centralization and regulation has a market as well. It has a niche. And there are, I've had projects with people on there and they say one of their favorite things building on there is the whole regulation aspect. So yeah, there's a case to be made, you know. If you're into that or not for philosophical reasons, there are still airdrops to be secured. And yeah, here is one of the most interesting things. So when it comes to Venom, they have a very easy and simple sort of step-by-step testnet method that you can go for. Alan Wiz, the presentation will be made available, and all of the links are going to be in that presentation. So no worries, bro. All of these links that I'm on right now are going to be like in that presentation. So basically, this is how it works. With Venom Foundation, they have their entirely own ecosystem. So you'll have to set up a new wallet for this. I know that sounds a little scary. Holy shit, new wallet, you know, new protocol, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not that scary. So first of all, if you're setting up a Venom wallet, it's no different than setting up a MetaMask wallet. You just hit the download button, you add it as a browser add-on, and then there it is. You know, it looks very much the same. It shows you your assets. It shows you any NFTs that you have. You know, pretty much the same thing as you would see in your average MetaMask. Receive, send, etc., etc. So this is very simple in and of itself. You install the wallet. That's already a step in the right direction. Now, what do you do after this? Well, it's actually incredibly simple. They have it on their Twitter as well. You have the Venom blockchain testnet campaign. So the way this works is, if you have your wallet, you've already done step one. And you see here, already one of the advantages to the centralization and regulation of it all is that everything is super centralized. So if you want to go for this thing, everything is available within Venom websites, basically. So you install a wallet, and then you need some Venom tokens. So you start the testnet, you go in, and you're going to get to this page where you have these tasks that you need to do. So Venom is still, I would say, relatively early on in their testnet phase. I mean, the testnet's been out since, I think, April. So it's been out for a few months. It will probably still be around for a few months, just because of the scale and the level of, you know, what's actually being done here. And they have a very straightforward NFT achievement system. And of course, your goal is then to acquire all of these, right? And to do this, there's a couple of different things that you can do. So first of all, you need some of the testnet token, right? So you head over to the faucet here, daily task. There's other ways for you to get it, by the way. Like there's this early, like if you're there for the first time, you can get 30 tokens just straight off the bat for nothing. But then if you start here, which networks can be used to bridge tokens to the Venom chain? You answer a basic question, send congratulations, back to tasks. And then you get your 5 things. So then here you put in a password, which is in this case incorrect. Wait. Why is that wrong? Hang on. There. All right, and that is going to then give me my 5 testnet tokens eventually. Transaction speeds are, as you see, very fast. That all happened within 10 seconds, basically. And yeah, it's in general, like just the testnet has been very interesting to work with. I do, if in case I haven't made it clear yet, I do think there's a lot of potential here. And I do think that Venom has the potential to be a top 10 token, like in the distant future when like the real mass adoption actually starts. But basically, their NFT reward system is, you know, you go through some of their different protocols, some of their different products. You know, you have the wallet, you have the staking platform, you have the bridge, you have they have like a metaverse project, they have an NFT marketplace, lots of these different things. And then when you click on some of them, so like here, I'll go to complete tasks for this one. I intentionally left this one clear. It's created you create a Twitter post, so you could do that. You know, you can just do one of those things where you make a Twitter post and then you delete it like 10 minutes later or something. post an on-chain message. So that means that you actually, hop onto their website and you actually use it a little bit. So everybody here is just saying hello, GM, whatever. And then you can mint the NFT. So once you have that NFT, you have this extra one to add to your collection. And then you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more that are still coming out. And these come out over time. Like I said, this is a test net. This is something that's still very much being tested on. You can see, like, for example, their Venom pools thing is still being, worked on and is therefore currently actually not available. But yeah, this is still, I should maintain and say again, one of those unconfirmed ones. So, you can spend time doing this at your own risk. There is the chance that they just say, oh, thank you all for your help. You're great. That's it. Goodbye. No, but, most of the time they will actually be able to offer something to people. These were just 3 examples of many, many blockchains. This will be, something that you can also do. Like when I say do your own research, in this case, it means going onto Google, going onto Twitter, going onto YouTube, and looking for all of these different, airdrop tutorials, and then deciding which ones are worth your time. I've also mentioned 3 of the most mainstream ones in these tutorials. If you dig a little deeper, there are a lot more, like, how do I say, underground projects, like projects that aren't super mainstream, where, if you go for that one, if you believe in it, then maybe you could get a bigger allocation and end up making more money out of it. But again, it's the same as in NFTs. If you start to go for a more targeted thing, you risk a little bit more with the potential for slightly greater rewards. So again, proceed with caution. Go as far as you're willing to go. Anyway, back to our presentation. Oh yeah, a little bit of info about forgot to add the info. So LayerZero, like I mentioned before, is an omni-chain protocol. Their token has been confirmed. That's one of the main things that makes them stand out compared to all of the others right now. And they raised $300 million at a $3 billion valuation. So just like the last one, just like zkSync, there is a lot of money behind this. And then here is where all the links are going to be for you guys when the presentation becomes available. And then Venom, like I mentioned, all of these things, onboarding banks and governments, billion in funding. Peter Canez, if you guys are curious about who this guy is, he doesn't make many appearances, but on Venom Foundation's Twitter page, on their pinned tweet, there is like a very brief 1 minute, statement from him. And that's like one of those very rare public appearances that he's made. Anyway, those are all the links that you really need to know. Like I said, when it's centralized and regulated, it's actually very straightforward. But there you go. Here's a couple of other airdrops to look out for. Linea might be a bit outdated at this point. But you've got Gitcoin, you've got Lens, you have the second Blur airdrop, by the way, which is one that a lot of people have seemingly forgotten about, but is seen as one of the main causes for some of the low floors that we've been seeing on Blur. And then you have Eigenlayer, you have Starknet, of course. You have so many. You have Scroll. The list is endless. Again, do your own research for this one. The more you Google, the more different chains you're going to find. The possibilities are practically endless. So, the dark side of airdrops. Yeah, it's a sort of a catch-22 in this case, because, of course, everybody is sharing the alpha, but, statistically, you're giving more people, by telling more people about it, you're giving more people access to the same size of pie, right? So the more people know, the less will actually get distributed to people, just because there's more people to distribute to, right? 1,000 divided by 1 will end up being a much bigger number than 1,000 divided by 100. That's just how it works. There's also some malicious contracts, of course, and of course, be aware of scams. Since entering the Venom Discord, because they do have their own Discord server, I've been getting lots and lots of DMs of people going like, here's a free Venom airdrop. It's finally happening. Just ignore those, turn your DMs off, whatever it is you have to do. As always, just like with NFT collections, only trust links that are posted from the main Twitter page or Discord. So, here are some links of a couple of Twitter influencers and accounts that you can follow. A lot of these ones have some very good updates that are out there. Whenever there's an airdrop that gets confirmed, whenever there's a testnet that gets started, chances are one of these accounts are going to tweet about it. This is also going to be in the presentation, so be sure to give these guys a follow with notifications. That's always a really good idea to get the jump on some of these testnets or, mainnets. The interesting thing there is, if you're doing regular transactions at periods of low volume, then you also sort of increase your own chances of doing well, of getting a decent allocation. So like with zkSync, I was farming zkSync since last year, since like early last year. And that's why, I'm looking hopefully to get a decent little chunk out of that. Anyway, have a daily to-do list. Like I said, add this to your daily routine. When you wake up in the morning or when you come back from work, what I always do is I will then, spend half an hour to an hour doing some of the basic swaps or bridges or adding to pools on any of my given ones. And remember that time is limited. And you're far better off going in hard on like a couple of projects than trying like 20 different ones and only doing one like transaction a week on each of them. That's why I have like my basically like 5 projects that I'm working on actively, and I know that there's a ton of good ones out there, but you just have to be disciplined enough to make you believe in yourself that you make the right decisions and go after those yourself. So yeah, that's another one of the super important things. Let's see here. All right. I have now monologued for 56 minutes straight. Are there any final questions? If anyone has any questions, they can either speak up in the VC or they can type any questions they have out in the chat. I'll just leave it open for a little bit. Like I said, guys, the presentation will be made available, so any links that you may need, any tips that you may have, anything that you want to look up is all in, it's all available. Yeah, it's all going to be available. Calamiro, thank you so much. Hamad with the 5. Oh, the 5 that I'm going for? I've been going for... the 3 that I mentioned, first of all. So zkSync, I've just been going after for over a year now. So that one's just kind of, it's too late to stop now, pretty much. But yeah, LayerZero is definitely an interesting one. Venom is, I think, probably the biggest one that people aren't talking about enough. So if there was one easier one to go for, I would go for that one. Also, if you don't have that much money to spend on farming airdrops, everything currently on Venom is free. It's all testnet, so you can go for that one if you don't want to invest any money. And then the other ones that I'm doing is just Blur, Blur bidding. That's another one that I'm doing quite regularly. And Scroll is the final one. But yeah, those are the ones that I'm allocating my time to. But there's tons of other ones, of course, like Eigenlayer is obviously a really big one. I'm sure a lot of people are going to make a lot of money off of that. Scroll. Wait, I'll type it in the chat. SCR. If you just Google Scroll Network or Scroll Airdrop, you'll come up with a couple of tutorials and stuff. I just didn't want to do like all 5 of them in one, just because I already took such a long time. Yeah. Any final questions, guys? I'll just stick around 1 minute more or so. I'm also noticing Zeno is not here anymore, but I don't think I really need him to end the event. I'll just say thank you and then dip. Amazing presentation. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I do these voluntarily. I just really like to sort of, educate people on different aspects, and it's sort of my way of My way of giving back to Surgence after they were able to provide so much for me. What's the alpha on SEI? I don't know, dude. Like I said, my capacity to do research is limited, and therefore I only do research on like a couple of limited ones. You know about Entangle? No, but I will write it down right now. I'm always looking out for new ones. Entangle. Is there any way to maneuver the gas fees for bridging to zkSync? Yes. It does require you to have Binance, though. But if you have Binance, then you can actually bridge, zkSync funds. You can get them through Arbitrum. And, by doing that, you essentially get yourself $1 to $2 gas fees. That's a pretty useful way to sort of circumnavigate the zkSync swap, ridiculous gas fees. Yeah, there's threads, exactly. All right. If that's it, I'll keep looking into the chat for the next like 5-10 minutes or something to see if anybody has any other questions. But thank all of you guys for tuning in. I'm so happy that you were all here. I hope you were able to take away some interesting pieces of information. I do think airdrops are still very underrated in terms of making money. It just takes a little bit of grunt work. And if you're willing to go the extra mile nowadays, there are bots and stuff that you can really go hard on. Like there's bots that you can use to consistently do zkSync, for example, transactions and stuff like that. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much. Thank you to YoumeI for helping me set up the presentation and everything and helping with the planning stages and asking some very relevant questions already very early on. And yeah, on that note, thank you guys very much. And I hope to catch you all in the next one. And please be sure to drop a little thank you in the events chat so that everybody knows that I did a good job. Thank you, thank you. I would very much appreciate that. All right. Take care, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.